I was in a abusive relationship. My boyfriend, which I'm not going out or seeing with anymore, he was a jealous and possessive type of person. Yeah, and it really didn't start that way. It just ended up like that. I talked to him on the phone. I'd go out with him, but then afterwards, when I think about it, it was like it was wrong. Yeah, if my friends called in, he'd expect me to talk to him instead. Yeah, and if it was my best friend, I tried to talk to her, but he'd have a big thing about it. He'll ask me to choose between her and him. Yeah, and if I was to choose her, he'd get mad about it, and he'll get all jealous. And he hates her. He hates my best friend. He hates it how she tries to help me through the problems and everything that goes on. He says that it's none of her business.
The cycle of abuse is an ongoing pattern that escalates and escalates until it is finally broken when someone decides to intervene or one of the people in the relationship ends up dead. It's basically one of those two choices. It could start off with just a minor detail like verbal abuse, like name calling, or signs of possessiveness, controlling behavior, telling people what they can and cannot order, asking who you're with, what time you're going to be home, and it escalates and escalates and escalates. If you catch it in its early stages where it's just slowly beginning to form, then you can spot it and you can say, hey, this is an unhealthy relationship. What can I do? What can we do to make this a healthy relationship?
Lots of times things get so bad, the person is just so scared that something bad is going to happen that they just want to get it over with. And once I understood the cycle of abuse and understood why the person wants to get that bad moment over with just so everything can be good, it became clear to me that it's not that she or he is asking to be abused again. Nobody wants to be hurt or anything, but before that, he or she was abused or hurt very badly, and then their boyfriend and girlfriend came and said, I'm really sorry. I'm never going to do that again. I love you so much and I would never want to hurt you. So the person thinks, oh, well, okay, I want that again. I want that to happen again. And, he or she's really tense right now. And hopefully I can just get it out of the way and, then everything will be okay again and it won't ever happen again and everything will be good and our relationship will be just perfect. And a lot of times that's a misconception people have, because look at what happened before and it just keeps happening and you have to break that cycle.
It's one of the first programs for teens that they really own. They come to us and they get the training from everywhere, from the history of the battered women's movement to community activism. They have this group that's theirs, they own it, and they can create campaigns around that. They've created an internet chat room. They wrote and produced a movie that they show to other high schools. They've had a rally for No Prom Night Abuse. They had to take Back to the Day rally following a molestation case.
Okay, and now she's saying, how do people find out who to contact for help? Look in your phone.
There's a lot of local hotline numbers. I know oftentimes just magazines like YM or something like that, sometimes or Teen People, sometimes they have hotlines and phone numbers.
In both those chat rooms, we get a lot of questions from teens. Sometimes it's just questions like, oh, I really like him. Should I ask him out? Or what do I do? And, that's fun. And then there's a lot of questions where somebody will come on and say, my boyfriend or my girlfriend said this to me and they keep saying it to me and, I'm starting to think that maybe I am fat or I am mean or I am ugly or I am obnoxious and, it doesn't feel good. What's going on? Why do I feel this way? And sometimes that can be hard because somebody's asking you why they're feeling hurt and you have to let them know it's because, they're being emotionally or verbally abused and that kind of abuse isn't okay and you just keep letting the person know that they need to tell their boyfriend or their girlfriend how their actions are making them feel.
What was the first sign that this was an unhealthy relationship to you guys?
Are you asking us? He turned to you and he was like, "No, I'm sorry." It was sort of like you didn't have any say.
What would you guys categorize this as being?
Emotional, because you weren't actually physically violating her space or her boundaries, but you were emotionally degrading her. What we're hoping to do here is to get them before they start entering in their relationship, so that way when they do enter a relationship, they know what a safe, healthy relationship is, and that way they won't act violent in them.
Young people today want to be involved in organizations like this is because they're looking to be themselves. People aren't naturally violent. It's a conditioned thing. So they're looking to be not a part of violence in their homes.
Because, you know, there's so many different types of abuse, and the one that's most common, it seems like right now, is women and men, you know, kind of their like emotional abuse and being jealous and constantly poking and prodding at being jealous. That's abuse too, and I don't think a lot of people see that. And from personal experience, that happens way too often.
I think people deny relationship violence because it's a big area that is traumatic for some people. It's really hard to talk about for some people, and people just don't like to go to painful places generally. And I think that people deny it because they just don't want to go there. And one of the reasons it's hard to recognize it and to actually come out and say, this is violence, this is abusive.
He'll say, "Oh, you know, you're mine, I own you." That's how he felt. That's how he felt towards me, you know, and I guess he wanted to keep our relationship like that, you know, wanted to keep me forever. You know, because he'll be like, "Oh, you know, we'll get married and have kids, and, you know, I go to work and you stay home and watch the kids." And I'll be like, "I stay home." And if I was to do things like I wanted to join like stuff like drill team and stuff, he didn't want me to, because he's like, "Oh, why do you want to join, you know? Are you just trying to show off your body? Like, you have time if you have time, you should be with me," stuff like that. And so I wasn't gonna join, but then I finally convinced him. I had to convince him. It's like I had to have his permission before I could do it. That's not how I wanted it, because I wanted to have my social life and he to have his social, but he didn't expect that. He expected that he's staying home to be with me and I should too. But I didn't want that. And if I tried, then we'd just get into another argument.
She's different. Most girls today are different. They're not going to be just sit back, "Oh, I'm going to let some guy run over me." I don't think so. I'm not going to let no guy run over me. I'm pretty sure she's not either. I'm going to be her regardless.
I think in order to protect yourself from, you know, having people take advantage of you and things like that, you have to speak out. And some girls still have that quiet, you know, personality. I'm supposed to be quiet. I'm supposed to, and that's when people see them and want to take advantage of those type of people.
I think girls should be confident in themselves first. They need to start with themselves. And when they're confident with themselves, they will set boundaries because they know what they want and what they don't want. When somebody crosses those boundaries, they can put their foot down and say, "Hey, you know, don't do this because I don't like it. You don't need to. You need to respect me."
Guys and girls, they live up to everybody's expectations and what they see on the news and on the TVs and all that, and they want to be like the movies. And so when they see that, and they're expecting to be, and girls are expecting guys to want it, and everybody's expecting, not asking anything. They're just like, "Well, I know he wants this, and I know he wants that, and I know she was going to give me this," but they don't ever talk. They're assuming. So that's like a lot of the conflict when guys and girls come together.
Does anybody ever see though, that some of the guys do it differently than that, and although they don't talk, they may start expressing lots of feelings with the girl, not just "I love you," but that anger part. Do any of you know of situations, or can you think about how somebody who's dating may be doing that a little bit differently, so that they do maybe say "I love you," but there's the anger part of it too?
Yeah, I know some people who, will say that I love you or I care about you, and then that whole jealousy thing comes along where they want to yell and argue and fight over you doing the smallest thing, but they say that they're mad or they're jealous because they love you.
What do they do when they're angry? What kind of things?
Well, I mean, stuff that I've seen or experienced, never been really physical, but just, arguments and, the silent treatment and all that kind of stuff.
Well, my friend, she just recently got hit by her boyfriend. She called me. She was crying on my pager. She was saying that she had got kicked in the head, and she had bruises all on her arms because he was pushing her over the bed because he wanted to have sex, and she didn't want to. She's crying to me, and she's like, well, I know everything that, I know I deserve this, and I know I deserve this, but I don't know, I love him, and I don't know why I love him, and it's like I'm stuck, and I'm listening to her, and I'm like, I feel hurt because I can't make her do anything, because if it was me, I'd be the first one to say, okay, well, I'm outro, I don't need you, I'm over here at my friend's house now, but she wants to be loved. I think that's what it is. It's the whole thing of wanting to be loved and taking love from somebody that's going to beat you, and it's like, it hurts me that she won't make the decision, but I can't help it. It's not my decision, it's hers.
I talk about it to my best friend, and she'd point out everything to me. She'd point it out all the time, but I'd always make him seem right, or I'd blame it on myself. I'd be like, oh no, if it wasn't for me, then he wouldn't be like this. I'd always blame it on myself, and I'd always make him seem like he was right.
The person you're dating and the person you're with should be supportive. They should understand that you're not the only person in their life, and that they do have other friends. And if they can't respect your friends and your will to be with other people, then they're not respecting you. And therefore, if they're not respecting you, then there isn't a lot of equality going on in the relationship. So you have to learn to spot out the warning signs of abuse in a relationship. When the abusive partner starts taking over different aspects of your life, then that's definitely a warning sign. What I mean by that is when when the person's calling consistently, always wanting to know where you are. You feel like sometimes like a caged animal, and the other person's got the key. Some other warning signs are some forms of verbal abuse, which is basically like degrading you to put you back in your place. They start off like, no big deal, just, oh, she was driving me crazy, or, oh, he was driving me crazy, I just said it to get out of the situation. Well, it's a warning sign right there.
When you expect somebody to do what you say and do what you want them to do, you're becoming possessive, and you start looking for the things that make you happy, and you're not necessarily looking for what might make somebody else happy. And it becomes very one-person-centered relationship.
I think it starts off like, girls think it's cute, that their boyfriend wants to know where they are and what they're doing and who their friends are with, or blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times it escalates into something they didn't recognize at first, the warning signs, jealousy and possessiveness and stuff like that. I think a lot of times, especially it happens in high school all the time, the young freshman girls come in and they're kind of naive, and the senior guys are like, oh, these are hot little freshman girls, and so a lot of times they get taken advantage of, and stuff happens, and they really don't know where to turn, or they become a girlfriend of some senior guy, and they feel there's sort of like an inferiority there because he's so much older, and so there's a lot of inequality in those kind of relationships.
And I think that's where a lot of kids go wrong. Oh, well, he treats me nice, he buys me things. It doesn't even matter about that. He buys me things, and, you can't go, then it goes to where you can't go nowhere unless you're calling him, telling him where you're going. And then he starts dominating the relationship, then you're all brainwashed and just out of it. oh, he loves me, please. That's a bunch of, no, I don't even believe that.
For you to always think that she has to check in every hour, every 2 hours, you know, just tell you where she is, that's a leash, you know, and she's not a dog, and she's not really an animal to be brought around and told what to do and what to eat and where to go.
I started realizing when I'd see my friends, when I'd see, like, my friends calling each other really, really mean names and joking around about it, and then sometimes you could see another friend's reaction as, like a friend of mine would say something really negative, and she'd laugh about it, and she'd kind of, you could tell in her, like, expression, in her body language, that it was kind of like, that's a joke, but that something inside of her just, it hurt.
Some teens grew up with this in their homes. Either their mother or their father was this way, and so they kind of carry it on. And until they see themselves that this kind of behavior isn't okay, it's not acceptable, and they want to change, nothing's going to happen. Or until somebody says, you know what, that's not cool. You shouldn't treat somebody else that way. Don't say things like that to him, or don't say things like that to her. You know, people need to stand up and say, that's not okay with me. I find that disrespectful, and you can't talk like that to people.
So to have a healthy relationship, it's really key that you have respect and honesty, and friendship, you know, and really open lines of communication so that both parties feel that they can communicate fully and totally. And I think what happens in a toxic relationship or an unhealthy relationship is you start seeing these signs early on. And that's what we're really trying to teach the kids, is to see the signs of that you don't really feel very trusting in this other person, or they say things that make you feel unsafe, or, you know, you get this little feeling in your stomach of, gosh, that just wasn't right. And with kids, they just keep going on with that. Well, it's, you know, they don't trust themselves very much, so this must be what a relationship is. Or if you don't have very much experience with relationships in general, it's hard to tell where those lines are and where those boundaries are. So the best definition I can give for a toxic relationship is when it crosses your personal boundary and you feel like your boundaries are being violated.
We just make out, right? Just the kissing, hugging part. That was normal. And then, like, he'd expect more and more each time. You know, he'd be like, oh, let's take a nap. Okay, I'm like, okay, sure, you know, because I'm tired too. And then that's when it started going further and further.
It's a lot of 9th grade girls come in here like that same attitude. Oh, you know, if they think I'm easy, this and this and this. If I have sex with them, if I give them what they want, then they'll like me. I'll be popular. Wrong. It's the opposite.
I think that sex is not the key issue in a relationship. You don't have to have sex or be sexually active with the guy to keep him. You shouldn't have to. He should be on your pace. You know, wait for you. You don't have to be a sexually active teenager to fit into your group of friends. That's not the group of friends you need to be fitting in with if that's not something that you want to do.
When I see the girls, they're like, well, he said he's gonna leave me if I don't do it, and we're gonna do it on prom. And I'm like, well, you're okay, then you can go ahead and do that, but what's the point, you know? If he's gonna leave you because you won't have sex, you know, that means your relationship's not worth anything if you're gonna let him just run you over and say, well, I'll leave you if you have sex. That means he's controlling what you're doing just because you're scared to lose him. I say you're the same person. When he comes and meets you, you're you. And when he leaves you, you're still you, you know? And so whatever happens, you're still the same person. So you don't need anybody to stand. You can stand strong on your own.
And I would wish a lot of girls knew that a guy does not complete you. Should not make you feel whole. He should make you feel that much better about yourself. But because you're with him, or he comes on to you and he's a real cool, cute senior guy who graduated, and you feel complete, you feel whole. That shouldn't happen.
It's like the two halves coming together and saying, okay, if we come together as two halves, we're whole. I'll be okay if I'm whole, but if my other half goes, then I'm not okay. So one of the things we start talking about, the peers actually do, is show those two pieces don't work. that you have to be these full circles that connect in places. So you need to be whole on your own.
People go looking for their other half and are on a mission to find that other half, and that leads them into a relationship that they're expecting something out of. And when you expect to get certain rewards or services out of a relationship, you're not living the relationship anymore.
We're telling them about the cycle, but we need to point out how to break it. And, so then we kind of revised our, presentation, and we put in communication. And that's how you break it. Rather, it's communication to the abuser, communication, that you seek to a friend, a peer counselor, a support group. That's really the key. And I think it takes, if you're being abused, or really if you see it and you don't want to emulate that cycle, that you need to take it upon yourself. You can, is what people need to know. Is, what I'm trying to say is that you can take it upon yourself, empower yourself, and end it.
You have to say, I'm not going to take this anymore. And, lots of people aren't aware of the fact that violence is a learned behavior. You pick it up from your family. Sometimes you pick it up from society, the media, the things you read, the things you see on TV. And, you learn these behaviors. You're not born with violent behaviors. And, everyone needs to know that you can unlearn those behaviors.
If anyone's being hurt, and, I would almost exchange hurting people for the violence, because then that starts off with, I may look at someone in a way that is disrespectful or hurtful. I may say a word under my breath. I may ignore someone. The silence of hurting. From that, up through intimidation, up through mental anguish over something someone's done or said, physical violence, sexual violence. I mean, to me, it is a spectrum, but it's hurting. And when the other person, somewhere in their guts, knows this doesn't feel good, then it's happening. To me, the unfortunate thing is that sometimes those kids and adults don't know to say, this hurts. It's like something feels weird inside of me. It doesn't feel good, but they're not saying it in words.
You can break the cycle. It's within everybody's power. Nobody has to become a part of the statistics that nobody has to be a part of the 49% of American men that abuse their partners.
It was summer vacation, and he had to go up to go visit his sister for the summer. So then we talk on the phone too. Like, he expected me to call him every day. We'd use like a calling card or something. And then I was like, this is my chance to break it off, right? So then I broke it off.
Emotional violence and economic and sexual and all that leads to being physical. And if you don't get out of it, it'll end up being physical, and you're going to have to eventually realize that that's what's going to happen.
Often times people kind of turn inside themselves and want to internalize their angers and their fears, and it only bursts out in acts of violence and physical violence, emotional violence.
If I or anyone else knows that someone is in an abusive household and are being abused, that to make sure that they know that it's not their fault, and that they have options, and that it's not their fault that their parents or their boyfriend or their husband or their girlfriend is abusive.
One of the best things I think that you can do if you are the friend of someone who is being abused or in an unhealthy relationship is pretty much guarantee that your friendship is there. Now, there are no guarantees, but you can say, you know what, if you want help, you need help, I'm here for you. I have resources. I can help get them. I know people we could get them from, and they don't go away. I think one of the worst things you can do is be judgmental, is tell them what they're doing is wrong and what a terrible person they are and why are they doing this. That does nothing but back people right back up into the closet. Now, all bets are off if the person is in imminent danger. Then that teen, and we always tell the peer counselors, you need to get some adult help. This is something that is harm to self or others. You've got to come find one of us to help you with this.
I definitely encourage teenagers to speak up and speak out in a loud voice, because basically that's the only way we're going to solve this problem, is if people take an initiative and stand up and say, no, I've had enough. I'm not taking this anymore.
From day one, is all you got to do is build yourself up and love yourself enough to have your confidence way up there, so that when you're faced with somebody's ignorance, like, hey, baby, come here, you know, you'll be able to say, well, I'm not the one they're talking to. You have it in yourself. They're not talking to me because I'm not like that. So you have the respect in you to not let anybody disrespect you.
First comes respect. Then you get other things like honesty and lots of communication. Without communication, you're never going to know how the other person's feeling or where they're coming from. And you need to be truthful to one another. You need to treat each other equally and care and understand. So there's a lot of that, but to me the most important one is respect. When two people really respect each other, everything else sort of falls into place.
You just have to carry yourself, with your head high. You don't have to take it. You don't have to listen to it. And there's this real odd code of silence in schools, high schools and junior high, that you don't want to be a snitch or whatever. But that's where it comes to girls who are kind of like myself, that I don't care how you view me. If I can't handle you myself, then I'm going to go to someone who can. And frankly, how you feel about that is not my issue. My issue is how you're making me feel, and that I don't want that to happen.
Thank you.